I saw a documentary that I've wanted to see for all year that you guys have seen, the Jodorowsky's Dune.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet. I
haven't watched it yet. Oh my God. Get it.
No, I want to. It's on Netflix, and I've got to send this crap back. I got to watch this crap I have from Netflix in order to get it because it's not on instant. It's just on. They just have the DVD. So,
yeah,
I will watch it.
Look,
I can't wait to see it.
I don't give two craps about Dune. I generally don't give two craps about science fiction, or his particular brand of avant-garde filmmaking. But I was watching this movie, and it was so inspiring. First of all, he was building like the sci-fi movie to end all sci-fi movies. The colorful amount of talent that he was assembling for this movie. But more than anything, it was his like undying passion for it. That he says, "I will cut off both of my arms if it means that I'll finish this movie." And there's a scene in that movie that made me cry, where the American studios turn him down in spite of all the work and talent he's put into this thing. With the last $5 million that he wants to raise, and he takes a wad of cash out of his pocket. He's like, and why? Because of this shit, this paper. I'm talking about something that will change the world. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is what, speaking of Apocalypse Now, this is like the kind of inspiration we got from Coppola during that period. He says, I don't care what I have to do, I got to finish this movie. And it's something that we don't feel from filmmakers anymore nowadays. And that undying passion. And he's 84 years old, and he still has it.
And he made a movie that came out this year.
Yeah.
He made a movie, The Dance of Reality, that we were talking about with Vilma Zsigmond, because he was going. I don't know if he was scheduled to be the DP on a film. I'd asked him about that a couple of years ago when we interviewed him, and I don't think he turned out to be. But this guy, I was trying to explain to my mom, if his version of Dune had come out, how different the cinematic landscape would be today.
All of cinema history would have been changed.
Oh, yes. It would have been. You might not have had. Star Wars may have been an afterthought. After, I mean, you have to really look at the even though Frank Herbert's son has desecrated the memory of the original series by writing all these crappy prequels and everything, Dune at its time, before David Lynch and everything, was like the gold standard. But how do you film it? This guy was the one who obviously knew this is how you do it. I mean,
and it's also fascinating to me how the two guys whose careers kind of catapulted via the Midnight movie, how they were both involved in Dune, with Jodorowsky and with David Lynch, who eventually did it. That's an interesting kind of statistic, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think only someone who could have that kind of midnight movie sensibility could probably make a Dune that was worthy of the book that it comes from. But you're absolutely right that the movie is completely inspiring and kind of thrilling, and Jodorowsky is an amazing speaker. I mean, his that moment in that movie where he talks about going to see Lynch's Dune is maybe my favorite moment in the film. Yes, that was
it's very funny.
It is so hilarious. I won't go any further, but it's a great moment. But, I mean, the world would have been different if he would have been allowed to make it. And what's really strange about it, though, is that why, back in the 70s, they should have been a little bit more adventurous about this kind of thing. I'm surprised that he got turned down so much, because I can't explain it, really. Maybe just because sci-fi wasn't big in that until the very end of the 70s. So
remember,
maybe that was it.
Yeah, I mean, you have this, but you also have, Lucas originally really wanted to do Flash Gordon, and I think it was Zeffirelli had the rights originally, so he couldn't do that. So he then did, he goes and Lucas does Star Wars. But I would have loved to have seen this happen, just because then Jodorowsky might have done, Jodorowsky doing a live-action heavy metal movie or something, just...
He would have
there are a lot of
bigger
things,
career. Yeah.
A lot of things that he could have done. I'm not complaining. I mean, I like Santa Sangre a lot, and I love all the midnight movies that he did, and I'm glad that he's still making movies. But this would have been the thing. You look at this and with everything
I've read over the
years.
Part of me thinks, even as meticulously planned out as it was, I'm wondering if they even would have been able to do it in 75. I mean, that seemed like such an impossible undertaking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And maybe that's what they were looking at. I think they turned it down because there wasn't a great sense of, what is this movie? Is this going to be a 20-hour movie? And they hadn't really even thought about that.
Right.
That probably is the case. I think, when they came down to it and they said it was going to be like a 4 or 5 hour movie or whatever, they probably said, well, we just can't do a 4 or 5 hour movie. I mean, remember, this is back when they were worried about making movies over 2 hours because they were worried about popcorn sales and so forth. So
right, exactly.
And there weren't huge multiplexes with 50 theaters at each one of them. So most of the theaters were like 1 or 2 screen theaters. So they really had to worry about the popcorn sale thing, and they just didn't want to do a 4 hour movie. I think that was probably but I do also believe that there was a lot of sense of there was executives that couldn't get on board with it was just such a wild, far out kind of deal that they just couldn't see it.
And he was wild. He was wild and far out. I mean, it was more. It was more like him. I mean, if Spielberg or someone else had taken that exact book to them, I'm sure they would have been more accepting of financing it. But he scared them because he was like a wild card.
Maybe.
You make these weird frickin' movies. It's like we don't know what to expect with you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
If he might have been doing it, been ready to do it, and was he ready to do? I can't remember the timeline, but it seems like it's around this 75 or something that he starts taking it to the. But if he would have been ready to do it in 70 or 71, there might have been more of a chance because they were taking more of a chance on things like that back then. Trippy things like this, but
it was a good. It's just one of those things that
because they would have been looking for another 2001. At that
they were looking for a head movie. They were looking for head movies back then. But I think by 75, that whole thing had changed, so they weren't so much looking for that anymore.